Mu Gongzi, who had traveled to the world of the Heavenly Dragon, witnessed the mystery of martial arts and firmly established his desire to practice martial arts. Utilize everything that can be utilized, anyway, to become stronger. I am Mu Gongzi, choosing by any means possible. The current world is the Heavenly Dragon, and the next world will be the #1 in the world. In the future, there will be games such as Magic Sword Life and Death Chess, Tang Dynasty Twin Dragons, Wind and Cloud, Water Moon Cave, and so on. Every world is not short, it's not brainless to change maps. Take your time. Keywords of the novel. Wuxia. I just want to practice martial arts without a pop-up window. Wuxia. I just want to practice martial arts. Download the complete set of TXT. Wuxia. I just want to practice martial arts. Read the latest chapter. Chapter 1. The First Arrival of the Heavenly Dragon. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. The First Arrival of the Heavenly Dragon at Night. In a dilapidated temple at the foot of the mountain, the candle shadows are deep. The wind kept drilling in through the cracks of the broken window, blowing and swaying the shadow of the candle. Under the moonlight, the Buddha statues in the dilapidated temple seemed to shine brightly, appearing somewhat mysterious and profound. If there were no such bodies on the ground, it would be the best thing. Azu Abi, this young master should be okay, isn't he? A crisp sound sounded. Miss Biao, this. It's really strange. The young master didn't breathe just now, but now he's breathing again. With breathing, you're still alive. The person called Miss Biao was pleasantly surprised. It should be alive. It's really strange that this person fell from the mountain without any damage. The third sound also sounded, adding a touch of warmth compared to the previous two sounds. I guess it's just these unlucky guys who used to be meat mats. The previous voice sounded, with a hint of ancient and supernatural aura in its tone. You're still talking, Ah Zhu. If it weren't for you having to go out and play, you wouldn't have been chased to the ruined temple by these guys. That gentle voice sounded. These lecherous thieves speak ill of Miss Biao and us. I just want to take them out of the city and teach them a lesson. Lesson. These people all have martial arts skills. If it weren't for this young master, it wouldn't be a big deal if we had an accident. Miss Biao was bullied by these people. Alright, Abi, these three people actually know martial arts, and Azu didn't expect it either. Besides, aren't we okay? Don't blame Azu. The light and agile voice rang out again. If you want me to say it, it's just Bao San Gu and Feng Si Gu. Who made them suddenly leave? The ancient and eerie voice rang out again. Brother Bao and Brother Feng are also concerned about his cousin's affairs. Shaolin Temple has started investigating the cause of Master Xuanbei's death. Hey, this person seems to have woken up. As the words fell, the three of them looked at the figure on the door panel together. Well, without a bed, they removed one of the door panels and used it as a bed to put the young man up. Mu Gongzi is a bit confused. When he opened his eyes and looked around, he didn't even know the three women next to him who looked like heavenly immortals. A second ago, he had just returned from an adventure on the mountain, holding a stone plate that he accidentally saw on the mountain, ready to go find an expert to see if this thing is an antique. As a result, I accidentally stepped on my way down the mountain and fell off. Mu Gongzi endured the pain in his limbs and propped up the bed under him. Oh, the door panel sat up and looked around. It seemed that there were three big men sleeping at the foot of the wall in the distance. Mu Gongzi lowered his voice and said, "Three people, where is this?" The three women in front of Mu Gongzi were all very beautiful. Even Mu Gongzi, who had been used to seeing various beautiful women in his past life, was somewhat surprised. The most eye-catching one is the one in the middle. The slender figure and long hair draped over the shoulders reflect a pure and sacred atmosphere, and there is a strong aroma of spirit emanating from the body. The one on the left side is very beautiful. Round eyes, with black eyeballs and bones rolling around. The eyes are agile, and the smile on the face is like a blooming spring flower, with a charming charm. Skin is snow-white, pink and tender, smooth and crystal clear. She has a petite and delicate figure. Vivid and charming, she is a rare beauty in the world. As for the one on the right side, wearing a green shirt, she is extremely gentle. A pair of delicate hands and fair skin, like jade, reflecting green waves, like transparency. This is the underworld. The person on the left side spoke and deliberately lowered his voice, as if trying to scare Mu Zhe. Ah Zhu. The woman in the middle shouted softly, indicating that she should not talk nonsense. Mu Zhe couldn't help but be taken aback by the woman's words, Ah Zhu. Young master, this is a dilapidated temple outside Wuxia. The woman in the middle said softly. Mu Zhe rubbed his head, looked at the surrounding environment, and as he looked at the clothes on the people in front of him, Mu Zhe knew very well that he might have traveled. Miss Biao, we should go now. Tomorrow's Beggars Sect Apricot Forest Conference, we need to go earlier. Maybe we can meet the young master. The gentle woman on the right spoke up. The woman, known as Miss Biao, nodded lightly towards the two women beside her. The two women instantly understood and took out 2 ingots of silver from their arms, placing them in front of Mu Zhe. The young master descended from the sky and accidentally saved us from a fight. These 20 taels of silver are our gratitude. Although the young master fell from the mountain, it was not a big deal, so we will bid farewell first. The gentle woman whispered softly. The meaning is quite obvious. She said that Mu Zhe only prevented them from fighting, not saving lives. If they really want to fight, even if they are defeated, they can still escape. Mu Zhe didn't have the time to dwell on the profound meaning behind these words. He was just doubting if he had heard wrong, Beggars Sect. But when these 3 people took out the silver, Mu Zhe paused for a moment and touched his own body. Although I don't know why he's wearing a traditional costume and his hair has grown longer. But he was very certain that he didn't have any silver on him. In other words, these 20 taels of silver are in great need by Mu Zhe. This is related to his future life. Mu Zhe reached out to take it, and before Mu Zhe could ask about the Beggars Sect, the 3 of them had already left. Mu Zhe stood up from the door panel with support. Looking around, it is indeed within the dilapidated temple. Just now, such a loud voice didn't wake up these 3 people. Mu Zhe looked at the 3 people lying on the ground and couldn't help but mutter, thinking and walking forward. But when Mu Zhe walked up to these 3 people, he couldn't help but fall and sit on the ground. These 3 people all have blood flowing out of their noses, they can't die anymore. Mu Zhe stood against the wall. Where did he see such a scene in his past life? Mu Zhe glanced at the 3 long knives on the ground, suppressed his fear and walked forward, then took the weapon blade in his hand and quickly ran out of the broken temple. After running a long distance, Mu Zhe threw the 3 long knives he was holding onto the ground and shivered. It's really scary. Beggars Sect, Azu, Wuxia City, Apricot Forest, Miss Biao. Tianlong. Mu Zhe murmured softly. He guessed the identities of those 3 women. Of course, it goes without saying that Ah Zhu. The other person wearing a green shirt should be Ah Bai. The middle one must be Wang Yuyan. Unexpectedly, I stepped on nothing and ended up in the world of the 8 heavenly dragons. As for the timeline, it should be the day before Qiao Feng's background was exposed at the Beggars Sect Apricot Forest Conference. I'll wear it now, but you asked me to prepare. Mu Zhe looked up to the sky and sighed. Glancing at the long knife on the ground, my heart suddenly moved. Anyway, in my past life, I had no worries. Since I am fortunate enough to be in the world of martial arts, it would be a pity not to experience the charm of martial arts. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Tianlong World Opportunity Market Points. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Tianlong World Opportunity Market Points. How many martial arts skills are there in the Heavenly Dragon world? Mu Zhe doesn't know, but there are too many famous martial arts. Shaolin's I Jin Jing also has 70.2 unique skills. The Northern Underworld Divine Skill, Lingbo Weibu, Xiao Wuxiang Skill, and 8 Wilderness and 6 Harmonies Weiwa Zun Zun Gong of the Xiaoyao sect are magical martial arts. The 1 Yang Finger and 6 Meridian Divine Sword of the Dali Duan clan. Gu Su Murong's martial arts skills such as Dozhuan Xingshi and Heji. All kinds of divine skills, they are truly amazing. Not to mention Tian Shan Tong Lao, Li Qiushui, and other disciples of the Xiaoyao sect were able to cultivate their divine skills and maintain their beauty, almost indistinguishable from immortals. In this moment, Mu Zhe seemed to have found a way forward. Mu Zhe sat on the ground and suddenly thought of something. He quickly closed his eyes and murmured softly, "System." No response. Is the posture incorrect? Mu Zhe changed positions several times in a row before finally propping up his hands on the ground with a desperate expression. Oh, there are no golden fingers. Even if Mu Zhe has just arrived in this world, he knows that in the world of martial arts, practicing martial arts is all about cultivating from a young age. At such an old age, Mu Zhe's bones are probably already fixed. To cultivate martial arts, one can only take other paths. In the world of Tianlong, like Xiao Feng and Murong Fu, they have been practicing martial arts since childhood. There are only 3 who have become monks halfway through. Mu Zhe thinks it has great reference value. Firstly, Duan Yu, after obtaining the Baiming divine art, achieved a great ending all the way in his martial arts skills have shaken the past and present. Then there was Su Zhu, who accidentally cracked the Tianlong chess game of Wu Yazi and obtained Wu Yazi's pure skills. Finally, with the help of the ice silkworm, Yu Tongji, burdened with deep blood and hatred, finally obtained the Divine Foot Sutra. With the help of the ice silkworm, his martial arts skills improved rapidly in a short period of time, and he could even wrestle with Xiao Feng. Although ultimately abused, it cannot conceal the fact that Yu Tongji's martial arts are unparalleled. Mu Zhe summarized 3 paths, in simple terms, they are the Baiming divine arts. This one is invalid. The current timeline is already the Xingzi Forest Beggars Sect Conference, and the Baiming divine arts have long been obtained by Duan Yu. The second point is to crack the Tianlong chess game. Those who have read novels know that the key to cracking the Tianlong chess game is to stay put and survive. It's easier said than done, because after you crack it, you still have to play chess with masters like Su Xinghe and surpass him. Even Su Zhu was able to surpass Su Xinghe under the guidance of Duan Yanqing. Unfortunately, Mu Zhe doesn't know how to play chess, but he can learn it and try it out if he has the opportunity in the future. This is the fastest way to soar to the sky. The third point is still the divine skill, the Divine Foot Sutra. This Divine Foot Sutra is hidden within the Sanskrit I Jin Jing. If it weren't for Ah Zhu stealing it and being accidentally hit and soaked in tears by Yu Tongji, I'm afraid I wouldn't know when it would have been discovered. The best way for Mu Zhe to sneak into Shaolin and steal the Sanskrit I Jin Jing is to keep in touch with Ah Zhu and find a way to make her steal it, as long as the I Jin Jing leaves Shaolin. It's better for Mu Zhe to get it than personally going to Shaolin to steal the I Jin Jing. Mu Zhe summarized and came to a conclusion that he needs to find a way to get closer to Azu and others. Firstly, with Wang Yuyan as a martial arts treasure, you can guide Mu Zhe. Secondly, you can establish a good relationship with Ah Zhu to facilitate future planning of the I Jin Jing. San Lai, Abi is good at playing qin, chess, calligraphy, and painting, so she can teach herself how to play chess and prepare for the future Tianlong chess game. If you really can't learn. Just as Duan Yanqing, Mu Zhe believes that he is still willing to secretly guide himself, just like him guiding virtual bamboo. After all, a villain who has been wandering the world for more than 20 years would suddenly be overjoyed to know that he has a son. However, this idea was put at the end by Mu Zhe as a way to choose without any options. After all, Duan Yanqing is one of the 4 great villains. Trying to blackmail Duan Yanqing is tantamount to scheming with a tiger. Mu Zhe dare not gamble his own life. That's it. Mu Zhe stretched lazily. If he doesn't appear here now, according to the plan, he is already at a little sister's house, the two of them comfort each other, and then confide in each other. Unfortunately. Mu Zhe walked on the road for a while before reaching the city of Wuxia, where Wang Yuyan and Zhu were among the population just now. Although it was already dark, the city gate was still brightly lit, with many people entering and exiting. This is the night market about to begin, and these people are all people from villages outside the city, carrying goods to sell in the city. Mu Zhe held the wrapped long sword in his arms and followed the crowd into the city of Wuxia. It is not an exaggeration to say that Mu Zhe has seen ancient cities for the first time, as they are full of people. People who have been busy all day have gone out one after another, strolling up the street. Not far away, there is even the smell of rouge and water powder, which is a brothel that opens at night. Yin. After entering the city, Mu Zhe looked aside and his eyes lit up. It happened that there was a blacksmith shop not far from the city gate. Mu Zhe decided to sell these 3 long knives in his hand for some silver. Mu Zhe is not a novice, because during his college years, he started dating girls, and his history and calligraphy are both very good. History can make him boast, while calligraphy can be useful when teaching. 5 taels of silver has already been the expenditure of an ordinary family for a year, and the 20 taels of silver in Mu Zhe's hands are definitely a huge sum of money. But it must be said that the more money, the better. Mu Zhe was born in the northern Tang Dynasty. People were not familiar with the land, and having money in their hands gave them confidence. Okay, this is the world of martial arts. With martial arts skills and wealth, one can have more confidence. Mu Zhe walked into the blacksmith shop. All 3 long swords have been sold. After deciding to practice martial arts, one naturally needs to consider whether to use weapons or not. Naked fists and wielding swords are somewhat at a disadvantage, so Mu Zhe decided to use swords. There are many types of weapons, but my favorite is still the sword. The 3 long knives looked a bit like machetes, which Mu Zhe didn't like. He felt that although they were more domineering, they were still too heavy and ugly. He liked something light, graceful. The appearance of Tang Dao happened to catch Mu Zhe's eye. So, 3 long swords were replaced by a Tang sword by Mu Zhe, along with some scattered silver. A man with no strength to tie a chicken in his hand was holding an iron knife, which looked somewhat indecent no matter what. Mu Zhe held a long sword and continued to walk forward. There are many people from the martial arts world on the street, holding weapons everywhere, and even weapons are diverse. Mu Zhe is not alone or eye-catching. Mu Zhe walked left and right and directly entered a medical clinic. When he came out again, he had an extra book in his hand. This is a basic medical book. There is not much advanced knowledge or messy information above, only meridian and acupoint maps. Since Mu Zhe has decided to practice martial arts, he naturally needs to know the acupoints and meridians of his body. Otherwise, what do you think of martial arts secrets? The moves are easy to say, as they involve internal skills. Any slight mistake in acupoints and meridians is a deadly thing. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Is fortune telling good or bad? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Is fortune telling good or bad? Mu Zhe found an inn and stayed inside. After washing up, Mu Zhe lay on the bed and glanced at the clothes he had taken off, although he didn't know why he changed into ancient clothes. But just as he tidied up, Mu Zhe saw clearly in the mirror what he looked like in his previous life when he was young, about 18 years old. Compared to practicing martial arts, the age is indeed quite old. Mu Zhe lay on the bed, leaning against the edge of the bed, looking at the medical book in his hand. He was ready to remember the acupoints and meridians mentioned in the book first. Well, remember the name first, and as for the location, just remember the name later. Mu Gongzi cleared his mind and looked at the medical book in his hand. After a while, Mu Gongzi closed the book in his hand. His eyes were filled with a puzzled light. He closed them and then opened them again, with a strong surprise in his eyes. Ghosts, it's not an illusion. Mu Gongzi was extremely surprised. He had just read a medical book and had actually memorized a rough idea. Although it may not be unforgettable, there are also some areas that Mu Gongzi has forgotten, but not many. This is already equivalent to being unforgettable. Mu Gongzi didn't expect that there would be such benefits after a trip. Mu Gongzi seized the opportunity and decided to strike while the iron was hot. Before going to bed, read all the contents of this medical book. The plan cannot keep up with the changes. The next day, Mu Gongzi felt a bit confused holding the medical book in his hand. According to Mu Gongzi's plan, he had originally planned to memorize the acupoints for a month, but after such a night had passed, Mu Gongzi had already mastered the meridians and acupoints. What do you want to do so much? It's a good thing anyway. Mu Gongzi smiled and shook his head, got up and walked to the side, picked up a towel, soaked it in the basin, and then wiped his face. Spirit it up 100 times, let's go. Mu Gongzi is going to the apricot forest to have a look. This trip is not safe. After Qiao Feng's identity was exposed and stripped of his position as the leader of the beggars sect in the apricot forest, people from the western Xia came to ambush him. Mu Gongzi should be more careful. Seeing Qiao Feng leave, Mu Gongzi must also leave immediately, otherwise he may be caught by the people of the western Xia first-class hall. The Xingzi Forest Beggars Sect Assembly, where people from the martial arts world gather, and Mu Gongzi doesn't join in the fun, it's just a waste of time. Just looking around, as soon as Qiao Feng left, Mu Gongzi immediately left without any problems. Saying to set off immediately. Mu Gongzi asked about the location of the apricot forest yesterday. After coming out of Wuxia city, 10 miles west is the apricot forest. It may not be close, but it is not far either. After leaving the city, Mu Gongzi headed straight for the apricot forest. Running on both feet is not fast, a 5-kilometer journey takes an ordinary person about an hour to walk. Not to mention Mu Gongzi's Tang Dao, which weighs over 6 pounds, walked even slower. What sound? Mu Gongzi, who was walking on the road, stopped and whispered, then walked along the roadside and looked down. Mu Gongzi was on the hillside. Looking down, he saw teams of cavalry coming from outside. At the end of the team, many beggars were tied up with iron chains. Mu Gongzi widened his eyes. What? Did you miss it? Judging from the attire of these cavalry, it is obvious that they are from a foreign army, not the attire of the defenders of Wuxia city gate. Plus the beggar behind, the lice on his head are obvious. The apricot forest conference has come to an end. Is fate bad or good? Mu Gongzi smiled, not knowing whether his fate was good or bad. I wanted to join the fun, but the result was already over. If he went early, he might catch up with the people from the western Xia first-class hall and his fate would be the same as these beggars sect disciples. Mu Gongzi sighed and gently retreated, preparing to leave the place. Mu Gongzi glanced at the direction of the other person's departure and decided to go in another direction. Hurry up and walk. If we walk too slowly, we won't even be able to leave if the great song sends someone here. This is the sound of these western Xia soldiers shouting. The heavens are not beautiful. As soon as Mu Gongzi left, in just half an hour, the sky began to rumble and thunderstruck. Mu Gongzi is very depressed, there may be something wrong today. Previously, the sun was still shining brightly, saying it was cloudy or rainy. The rain is not small. Mu Gongzi raises his hands to block the rainstorm overhead. Unfortunately, there was no egg. After a while, Mu Gongzi was drenched by rainstorm. After running for about 10 minutes, Mu Gongzi finally saw a mill. God bless. Rainwater slid down from the corner of Mu Gongzi's mouth against his hair. Mu Gongzi was preparing to find a big tree and prayed for shelter below, hoping that the thunder would not strike him. Fortunately, with the blessing of heaven, I finally saw a house. Mu Gongzi walked quickly and arrived at the gate of the mill. The door was tightly closed, and Mu Gongzi patiently blocked the rain with one hand while knocking on the door with the other. "Who is it?" An impatient voice rang out from inside, with a slight urgency and a hint of panting, clearly the sound after intense exercise. "Passerby, if you want to find a place to take shelter from the rain, I can pay for it." Mu Gongzi shouted loudly. If someone has a bad temper, if they hear someone wanting to take shelter from the rain, they may just ignore it, not to mention the impatient tone in Mu Gongzi's tone. Simply move out the most advantageous weapon, silver. As expected, upon hearing Mu Gongzi's words, the person inside loudly said, "Wait a moment." Mu Gongzi waited at the door for a while longer, and the door of the mill was probably opened by someone. The person who opened the door was a man. The door only opened a little and saw that there was only one person, Mu Gongzi, so he made way and let Mu Gongzi in. Just as Mu Gongzi entered the door, he was cleaning his clothes. Looking at the woman in front of him who was tidying up her clothes, he couldn't help but be taken aback. He turned around to look at the man and then at the woman. Good guy. If Mu Gongzi were this man, I'm afraid he would have the heart to kill him. Thank you very much for your help, big brother and sister. Law. Mu Gongzi arched his hand and said, "This bowing ceremony is not like what Mu Gongzi learned." Fortunately, the man didn't mind and waved his hand. "It's okay, young Xia, you can rest on your own. If you don't mind, you can change your wet clothes upstairs if you have dry clothes." The appearance of Mu Gongzi holding a long sword made the man think that Mu Gongzi was a person from the martial arts world, not even mentioning the promised silver, fearing that Mu Gongzi would be unhappy. Xia's violation of martial arts is not just talk. Thank you very much. Mu Gongzi was also polite, took out the money bag, took out a piece of scattered silver, and then handed it to the man in front of him. Without giving the other party a chance to refuse, Mu Gongzi went straight up. The man glanced at the silver in his hand, with a surprised expression on his face. He quickly walked towards his wife, handed her the silver, and then quickly walked upstairs. "Young Xia, I'll find clothes for you." The man quickly helped Mu Gongzi find a piece of clothing, handed it to him, and brought him a towel before going downstairs. Mu Gongzi was upstairs, took off his clothes, changed into drier pants, and then wiped his back with a towel. It's really comfortable to suddenly change into dry clothes after being rained on for so long. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Don't pick me up. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 5. Happy Gone. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Happy Gone. Miss Wang, I think this young master has excellent martial arts skills and will protect us well. Mu Gongzi looked at Wang Yuyan and then said. In order to survive, Mu Gongzi instinctively approached Wang Yuyan. When he regained consciousness, he noticed that Wang Yuyan's face was slightly red. She likes Murong Fu and is not fake, even if she is a child of the martial arts world, but that doesn't mean they don't know about gender defense. Mu Gongzi got too close, she always felt a bit embarrassed. Seeing Mu Gongzi shift the topic, Wang Yuyan also breathed a sigh of relief. She propped herself up on the ground with one hand, thought for a moment, and then said, I have also seen young Master Duan's 6 Meridian Divine Sword, and it is indeed incredibly powerful. I have never seen such wonderful martial arts before. Wang Yuyan didn't speak with force, but don't forget. Since his debut, it is unknown how many people's skills have been absorbed by Duan Yu. First, all the internal strength of the disciples of Wuliang Mountain. Then in Wanjia Valley, he absorbed some of the internal strength of 7 people, including Duan Yanqing, Yi Ernyang, Yu Lao San, Yun Zhanghe, Zhong Wanqiu, Cui Baiquan, and Huang Meiseng. Through various combinations, Duan Yu's internal power has long been immensely powerful, and even the use of these internal forces is unconscious. With the support of internal strength, Duan Yu naturally has a keen hearing and a clear vision. Wang Yuyan's words were heard clearly by Duan Yu. Seeing that Wang Yuyan was interested in her divine skill, she immediately turned her head and exclaimed excitedly, "If Miss Wang is interested, I will recite this 6-meridian divine sword to you the next day." Mu Zhe couldn't help being stunned, followed by secretly roast about Duan Yu, who didn't know how important the 6-vein sword was to Duan in Dali. Wang Yuyan said that if you wanted it, you would give it. Mu Zhe's face became somewhat strange, and he looked at Wang Yuyan in front of him with a burning gaze. A 6-meridian divine sword that can be given to Wang Yuyan and Duan Yu, not to mention Biming divine arts and Lingbo micro-steps. Mu Zhe's heart moved. If Wang Yuyan could obtain these 3 divine skills and pass them on to him later, it would be even better. Unfortunately, they seem to have no relatives or connections. Wang Yuyan felt a bit flustered, and Mu Zhe saw her, and couldn't help but lower her head. Her heart was also filled with resentment, complaining more than once that Mu Zhe was not polite. "Miss Wang, don't misunderstand. I'm just thinking about how we can get out of danger later." Pastoral selection path. Yes, if you don't say it, I'll almost forget this. Wang Yuyan realized that she didn't even know the name of this young master. "I am selecting for grazing. Master Duan is not proficient in martial arts. Could you please help me up? If it weren't for my guidance, I'm afraid Master Duan would be defeated by those experts from the first-class hall." After spending time with Duan Yu at the Montua Villa, Wang Yuyan also learned that Duan Yu's martial arts skills were not agile at all times. She rashly took action, but her martial arts skills were not effective. "I'm afraid she's not really a match for martial arts experts." Mu Zhe nodded and bent down to approach Wang Yuyan, holding her shoulder with one hand and supporting her arm with the other. Helped Wang Yuyan up. Wang Yuyan had no strength at all. As soon as she stood up, she collapsed into Mu Zhe's arms. Mu Zhe tightly hugged Wang Yuyan with his right arm, preventing her from falling to the ground. "Miss Wang, look. Someone has come in." Wang Yuyan's face turned slightly red, and she looked up at Mu Zhe, only able to see his chin. Looking up, you can see Mu Zhe with a positive expression on his face. Wang Yuyan comforted herself in her heart, it was just a temporary measure. If she didn't speak up and guide Duan Yu, I'm afraid they wouldn't be able to survive. And if you want to give guidance, you have to stand up. Just now she was sitting on the ground, with the gaps between the stairs blocked by hay. If she didn't stand up, she couldn't see clearly the scene downstairs. Mu Zhe didn't lie either, there was indeed someone coming in. To be precise, there were 4 people, all masked and dressed in samurai attire. 2 people hold knives in their hands, while the other holds an iron ring. The outer side of the iron ring is extremely sharp. With one hand, hold the iron ring in the center, throw it outward, and rotate it to cut off the enemy's head. As for the 4th person, they walked with empty hands at the end, their eyes constantly scrutinizing Mu Zhe. At that moment, Mu Zhe felt a killing intent. Mu Zhe didn't understand what killing intent was, but just now that person glanced at him, Mu Zhe could clearly feel that the other person wanted to kill him. "It's the little girl upstairs. General Helian said, we must capture her alive, everyone else will be killed." One of the black-clad warriors spoke up and shouted. After speaking, the 3 of them rushed towards Duan Yu with their weapons in hand. 2 wielding long knives, one chopping horizontally and the other chopping vertically, while the other wielding an iron ring threw out the blade in his hand, tied it with an iron chain, and headed straight towards Duan Yu's skull. Although Duan Yu's martial arts are not effective, he has developed his own leg skills. One person dodged the attack of these 3 people on the side, and their footsteps fell to the ground. They were walking close to the ground, only to fly out from under one of them. Right now, Duan Gongzi, turn around and tap his neck. Lianshuan acupoint. Upon hearing Wang Yuyan's words, Duan Yu quickly turned around and pointed. In order to satisfy Wang Yuyan, he even put in all his effort. With a sudden finger, the person originally turned their back to Mu Ze, and their neck seemed to have lost its bones in an instant. Their head drooped backwards, so they couldn't die anymore. Mu Ze rarely sees dead people. This person's appearance of death is indeed terrifying. But this is Mu Ze's first time witnessing martial arts. Mu Ze's eyes are full of longing. Duan Yu was even more panicked. He didn't expect that such a finger would directly take the life of the person in front of him. Looking at his hands, he was a bit puzzled. Was this what he did? Duan Gongzi, be careful. Mu Ze spoke up and shouted. Duan Yu looked up and came straight towards his face with a long sword. Duan Yu suddenly bent down. Wang Yuyan's voice rang out again, Duan Gongzi, click on his waist ring to jump acupoints. Duan Yu instinctively leaned towards the person's waist, and the person instantly stopped moving before flying out and falling to the ground, unable to breathe. Just click on it and you'll die. Mu Ze said softly. Wang Yuyan glanced down and saw that the other two were not moving, so she answered Mu Ze's doubts. Although Duan Gongzi's martial arts are not very agile, his internal strength is very deep. He just pointed at the acupoint on the person's neck with too much force, which broke his neck bone. As for the point of ring jumping acupoint just now, Mr. Duan did not point it accurately. Instead, he accidentally hit the Wei Zhong acupoint, causing internal force to invade and directly affecting the lungs. Naturally, he could not survive. Mu Ze can also recognize acupoints, but the black-clothed person below is wearing clothes, and Mu Ze also thinks that Duan Yu pointed to the Huantiao acupoint. Unexpectedly not. Martial arts is too profound. Miss Wang, can I achieve anything if I learn martial arts at my age? Mu Ze asked a question of his own concern. Wang Yuyan looked up at Mu Ze, just in front of her eyes. 4 eyes facing each other. Mu Ze's gaze was extremely pure. Duan Yu looked at the 3 people who had fallen to the ground, and his heart was also filled with joy. He didn't like killing animals, but it was Miss Wang who gave him guidance. He did as Miss Wang said, and I believe Miss Wang must be overjoyed. Turn back now. What did he see? The smile on Duan Yu's face gradually disappeared. In his eyes, the unknown handsome young master held Miss Wang with one hand and their eyes met. The scene was like a beautiful painting. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Cannot be said that way. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 cannot be said that way, if only my martial arts were all from that shepherd's son. Watching Mu Ze embrace Wang Yuyan, Duan Yu suddenly had a thought in his heart, and the envy in his eyes couldn't be concealed. Now think about it, if you don't know martial arts, and Mu Ze knows martial arts, maybe it's Mu Ze who comes down to block the other party. And it was him who held Wang Yuyan in his arms. If I could hold Wang Yuyan for a while and let him die, it would be worth it. Duan Gongzi, be careful. Duan Yu was lost in thought, and the voices of Mu Ze and Wang Yuyan echoed together before he regained his senses and looked up. The blade of the 3rd Western Xia warrior is already close to his head. The rotating iron ring came straight towards his neck under the traction of the iron chain. If he hadn't reacted just now, he might have lost his life long ago. Just now, it's equally dangerous. Wang Yuyan's speaking speed was clearly not as fast as the speed at which Iron Ring approached her, and she could only watch helplessly, her eyes filled with anxiety. Mu Ze was even more so. Just as he was thinking about how to escape in case Duan Yu died due to his travels, he saw Duan Yu pushing out with both hands together. Mu Ze only heard a low and muffled explosion sound in his ear, but the ring exploded into several pieces. The shattered iron ring scattered everywhere, and a few of them even flew towards the 3rd Western Xia warrior. Before the person could react, the fragments of the iron ring entered the body, but they were too dead to die anymore. Duan Yu looked at his hands with fear in his heart. He now has some habits. Fortunately, young Master Duan has a deep internal strength. Wang Yuyan said softly. I also breathed a sigh of relief. There's one more last one. Mu Ningxing said. He now realizes what happened to the murderous aura just now. According to the plot, the last remaining Western Xia warrior is Mu Gongzi. No wonder he came in just now and looked like he wanted to kill Mu Zhe. He was holding his cousin and didn't want to kill him, that's why he felt strange. Listening to Wang Yuyan and Mu Zhe's words, Duan Yu regained his senses and looked at the last Western Xia warrior. After hesitating for a moment, he approached and said, You better leave quickly. I have already killed many people today and don't want to harm your life again. Ha ha ha. As soon as the words fell, the man in black laughed loudly, and Mu Zhe frowned, feeling a wave of irritability in his heart. This is the lion's roar. Wang Yuyan's expression was also uncomfortable, and she said softly. Perhaps seeing Wang Yuyan's uncomfortable expression, Mu Gongzi only smiled twice. He originally wanted to teach Mu Zhe a lesson, but in a hurry, he forgot that his cousin also did not understand martial arts. I want to see how you want my life. The Western Xia warrior disguised by Mu Gongzi smiled and said, then punched him. Upon seeing this, Duan Yu immediately took Lingbo micro steps, but after only a few steps, he was knocked down by the man in black. Miss Wang, please give me some guidance. Duan Yu quickly got up from the ground, rubbed his chest, and shouted loudly. If he can't beat the man in black in front of him, I'm afraid all three of them will have to explain it here. Duan Gongzi, this person's moves are too fast, and your moves are too ordinary. I can't even guide you. Wang Yuyan was also a bit anxious. He just made a few moves, but there were hundreds of variations between them. It's rare in the martial arts world to be able to achieve such a level. Wang Yuyan explained this person's martial arts skills, and the implied meaning was very obvious. That was the high level of martial arts of the black-clothed person, and I'm afraid Duan Yu had no choice but to make any efforts in vain. Humph, this girl has some insight. I see the three of you, let's just obediently surrender and capture. The black-clothed man transformed by Mu Gongzi smiled and said. However, there are very few people in the martial arts world who can achieve my level. Is it difficult? How many people besides me can achieve my level? Mu Gongzi changed his tone and asked. Mu Zhe did not understand martial arts, and the move that Mu Gongzi had just used was indeed somewhat mysterious to Mu Zhe, but it contained nearly 100 changes in one move, which Mu Zhe did not notice at all. Of course there is. Wang Yuyan's courage has also increased. This person has exceptional martial arts skills and is rare in his life. I'm afraid the three of them may not be able to escape the clutches. Since that's the case, why not be tough? You're talking about it. Mu Gongzi, dressed as a black-clad warrior, asked and sat directly on the nearby grinding wheel. My cousin, known as Gusu Mu Gongzi, who repays others with the same way, can also do it. Wang Yuyan's first natural choice is to talk about her crush. As the words fell, Mu Zhe could clearly feel the joy of the black-clothed man in front of him. Gusu Mu Gongzi is famous all over the world, with excellent martial arts skills. It's not surprising that he can do it. Mu Zhe listened to Mu Gongzi's boasting and couldn't help but secretly accuse him of being shameless. Even though what he said was true. In today's martial arts world, Mu Gongzi's martial arts are indeed among the top few. What else? Mu Gongzi asked again. And there's also the leader of the beggars sect, Qiao Feng and Qiao. Wang Yuyan thought for a moment and then said. Among the people in the martial arts world he has met, and those with high martial arts skills, besides Mu Gongzi, it is Qiao Feng. I once saw him strike in the apricot grove, and he used his Taizu long fist with great skill, blending all kinds of changes into one fist. He can be called a genius and a great master. Wang Yuyan spoke up. Upon hearing this, Mu Gongzi couldn't help but feel a little angry. His cousin praised him, but he didn't use words like genius or a great master to describe himself. How did Xiao Feng talk so much? He felt a bit unbalanced in his heart and immediately continued to ask, as you say, you are very familiar with these two people. Since that's the case, I'll ask you, whose martial arts are stronger between these two people? Listening to the words of the black-clad warrior, Wang Yuyan hesitated for a moment before saying, my cousin's martial arts are already superb, but it is inevitable that they are too complicated. On the other hand, the leader of the beggars sect, Xiao Feng and Xiao, has deeply studied the skills of dragon subduing palm and dragon capturing skill, and even developed her own style. If the two of them were to face each other with all their might, I'm afraid my cousin wouldn't be a match for that Xiao gang leader. To be honest, Wang Yuyan made Mu Gongzi feel as if he had been stepped on by someone's tail, and he immediately exclaimed, I heard that Mu Gongzi's Dozhuan Star Shift and Sanha Finger are very powerful, not weaker than the dragon subduing palm and dragon capturing skill. Although that's the case, my cousin is too obsessed with the 100 schools of martial arts. Wang Yuyan once again spoke up to refute the Mu Gongzi in front of her. Mu Zhe glanced at Mu Gongzi, then at Wang Yuyan, and couldn't help but smile awkwardly. Is it really okay for Wang Yuyan to fiercely damage Mu Gongzi in front of the main leader? Just because Mu Gongzi doesn't want to vent his anger on Wang Yuyan doesn't mean he won't vent his anger on him and Duan Yu. Mu Zhe immediately spoke up and said, you can't say that. Mu Zhe's words drew Mu Gongzi's gaze away. End of this chapter. Can this also be said in Chapter 7? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Can this also be said in Chapter 7? Having a good understanding of the leaders of 100 schools, when facing enemies in the future, your cousin will have a clear understanding of the weaknesses in the moves used by them. Isn't it easier to deal with them in this way? Mu Zhe spoke on behalf of Mu Gongzi. At the moment when Mu Zhe finished speaking, he could clearly feel that the black-clad man in front of him had softened his gaze towards him, with a look of deep agreement. But if it's for the convenience of facing enemies and just having a simple understanding, why spend most of your time practicing? Wang Yuyan shook her head. Mu Zhe looked unattainable, and he could clearly feel the sudden change in Mu Gongzi's expression in the audience. The participating finger of the Mu Gongzi family is extremely powerful, and it is also a top-notch finger technique in the world. The subtle and infinite changes of the stars make it even more so. Not to mention that the Dragon City sword technique was created by the ancestor Mu Longcheng and is the sword of the Imperial Way. My cousin only needs to cultivate these three martial arts, which is enough to make him the #1 in the world. Wang Yuyan commented. Mu Zhe didn't know what to say for a moment, but lowered his head to look at Mu Gongzi in the audience. His mind quickly changed and he immediately said, Miss Wang, that's not right. Young Master Mu Gongzi naturally understands the truth behind it. No matter how exquisite those martial arts are, they are not opponents of the Mu Gongzi family's unparalleled martial arts. Miss Wang, why don't you think about it? If the other party takes action against young Master Mu Gongzi, and he uses the same moves to defeat the other party, it will definitely make them happy and convinced. From this, it can be seen that young Master Mu Gongzi intends to hold the position of martial arts alliance leader. We should support him. Mu Zhe once again flattered Mu Gongzi, and in order to survive, he also spared no effort. Upon hearing these words, Mu Gongzi's eyes lit up. The man in white spoke to his heart. Others have their own names when they debuted, such as Xiao Feng, who served the country and the people. His beggars sect has made great contributions to defending the great Song dynasty. He naturally needs to have a reputation for his debut. Nowadays, the great Song dynasty is in power, and many knowledgeable people can be said to be loyal to it. His identity as a descendant of the Yan royal family cannot be used. Mu Gongzi turned his gaze to the secret script in his home's Shishui pavilion. The persona he created for himself is to give back to others in the same way. Simply put, it means having extensive knowledge and mastering all martial arts skills in the world. In this way, people in the world will surely be convinced by him. As for the position of the leader of the martial arts alliance, Mu Gongzi looked at Mu Zhe and tentatively asked, I believe that Mu Fu has excellent martial arts skills, but I don't think he can claim the position of Wulin Alliance leader, do you? Although the identity of Qiaofeng Khitan people is now exposed, there are still many masters in the martial arts world of the great Song dynasty, especially Shaolin. Mu Fu's martial arts reputation may not be as good as Abbot Xuanzi. Ha ha ha, Your Excellency has entered a misunderstanding. Mu Zhe laughed heartily, and Mu Fu was taken aback at the words. He was really intimidated by this person's laughter. What misconception? Mu Fu asked after him. Excuse me, sir. As the leader of the alliance, you must have the strongest martial arts skills. Actually, it's not the case. I think as long as the martial arts skills are sufficient, it's better not to be the strongest, but also not too weak. This is exactly what young Master Mu fits. So what should he do next? Mu Fu quickly asked. He also recognized that the person in front of him seemed to really have two brushes. May I ask Your Excellency, what is the biggest hidden danger in the martial arts world? Mu Zhe thought for a moment and then asked. Upon hearing this, Mu Fu pondered deeply and then asked, the attacks between sections. No, in my opinion, the biggest calamity in the martial arts world comes from the imperial court. May I ask you, if you are the ruler of a country, can you tolerate your own rule and rely on force to commit crimes, indiscriminately killing innocent warriors? Mu Zhe asked back, and Mu Fu seemed to understand something. Looking at Mu Zhe, his eyes were full of surprises, and he felt that his previous route was completely wrong. There must be more good ideas in this person's heart that have not been expressed. Your highest opinion. Mu Fu smiled and said, taking out a porcelain vase in his arms and throwing it to Duan Yu, this is the antidote to the sorrowful and crisp breeze. Just smell it. As for this young master, I feel like we are old friends at first sight. I have a lot to discuss in detail. After Mu Fu finished speaking, his figure instantly became psychedelic. He leapt up and reached Mu Zhe's side, grabbed Mu Zhe's shoulder, and rose straight into the sky, leaving the mill. Mu Zhe felt the trees in front of him constantly regressing, being grabbed and flying towards the distance. Mu Zhe couldn't help but feel a bit dizzy. The young master has great insight, and I admire him to the extreme. Therefore, without the young master's permission, I invited him here. I hope you won't blame me. Mu Fu took Mu Zhe to a forest and said. Mu Zhe rubbed his shoulder. There is no displeasure on the surface. What can he say? Is Mu Fu very unhappy with his actions? It's okay, Your Excellency brought me here. I think there's something I need to ask. You may as well speak up. Mu Zhe said. Upon hearing this, Mu Fu couldn't help but take a step forward and then said, what the young master just said, I am very interested and want to hear his analysis. I wonder what you want me to analyze. Mu Zhe spoke up and asked. Mu Fu took another step forward, almost sticking to Mu Zhe. I want to know, if we follow the young master's ideas, how can Mu Fu become the leader of the martial arts alliance? Mu Fu asked. Upon hearing this, Mu Zhe smiled and said, in my opinion, what young Master Mu is worried about is nothing more than Shaolin. After all, now the identity of the beggar's sect leader Qiaofeng as a Khitan has been exposed, and the Central Plains Martial Arts Alliance leader will never reach him again. There may still be senior experts in the martial arts world, but most of them are obsessed with martial arts. If we let them manage things in the martial arts world, I'm afraid they won't have time. Yes, if I were Mu Fu, I would also be worried about Shaolin people. It's not easy to talk about the great masters in the Wulin. Mu replied, thinking that Mu Zhe did not know his identity, he still faced Mu Zhe with the identity of Li Yanzong. Shaolin, first and foremost, is a monk, followed by people from the martial arts world. If there are Shaolin monks competing for the title of Wulin Alliance leader, wouldn't it be a violation of Buddhist precepts? Who would care about the false reputation of Wulin Alliance leader, a truly accomplished monk? Mu Gongzi asked in reverse, and upon hearing this, Mu Gongzi nodded. I can't blame him for this. Shaolin's actions now seem to treat him as the leader of the martial arts alliance. Which sect has a dispute, Shaolin will send people directly over. Very domineering. Now that this person has said so, that's the same truth. Even if we want to compete for the martial arts alliance leader at that time, Shaolin will definitely not come to participate openly. The premise is that the selection of this martial arts alliance leader is normal and in line with human relationships. If there is no reason to choose the leader of the martial arts alliance, Shaolin will come forward to refute it. At that time, as long as they use the reason of destroying the peace of the martial arts world, it will be enough for them to take action. We need to find a reason why they can't take action. This reason is the conflict between the court and the martial arts world that Mu Gongzi just mentioned. If the court wants to send troops to conquer the martial arts world, it is only natural for the martial arts community to form an alliance and watch and help each other. At that time, he will naturally be able to step forward, skip Shaolin, and command the heroes. At this thought, a strange expression flashed in Mu Gongzi's eyes. Hey, if it's really as you said, due to the Song Court's reasons, the Wulian alliance has been established. If Mu Gongzi leads them to rebel, can we succeed? Mu Gongzi shook his head and said, difficulty, how many people are there in the court? How many people are there in the martial arts world? Thinking of the army of the court, Mu Gongzi also nodded. Relying on these martial arts people to fight against the court was indeed a bit of a pipe dream. In the Song Court, there are also masters who know martial arts, and their skills are not weak. Can you tell me what Mu Gongzi should do if he really intends to resist the Song Court and find a place to settle in the Central Plains martial arts world? Mu Gongzi asked again. Mu Gongzi pursed his lips and even sought a place to settle in the Central Plains martial arts world, which was quite impressive. Isn't it for the sake of restoring the country? But can such words also be said? Speaking ill of the current court is not something that a normal person can do. End of this chapter. Chapter 8, Duan Gongzi, could you please push the Mu Gongzi? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8, Duan Gongzi, could you please push the Mu Gongzi? The current emperor is wise and powerful. Even if young Master Mu Gongzi wants to entangle people in the martial arts world to resist the court, he is afraid. Mu Gongzi shook his head. Today, I am Zhao Su, the philosopher of the Northern Song Dynasty, and I can be considered the last male ruler. Created the small prosperous era of the Northern Song Dynasty with one hand. The people don't say they have meat every meal, but they also have a taste. Even among the people in the martial arts world, there are probably not many who want to resist the court. Upon hearing this, Mu Gongzi's expression changed and he continued to ask, if the emperor is determined to oppose the people of the martial arts world, and the people of the martial arts world resist the court, it may not be impossible. Without waiting for Mu Gongzi to speak, Mu Gongzi continued to ask, today, I just want to hear from you how to overthrow this court. Mu Gongzi saw that Mu Gongzi refused to speak and leaned slightly, exposing his long sword from his waist beneath Mu Gongzi's eyelids. Mu Gongzi opened his mouth. Why is this person so irritable? He can move his knife and gun at any moment. It's natural to use the power of the military to confront the court. Mu Gongzi is decisive and follows the heart. To save lives and not embarrass oneself. Upon hearing this, Mu Gongzi pondered for a moment and then asked, are you saying that Mu Gongzi should recruit troops and buy horses? Mu Gongzi shook his head and said, I'm not sure what the structure of the current court is, but I know that regardless of the dynasties, the control of weapons is very strict. If we recruit troops and buy horses, the manpower can still be hidden. But how can we obtain the weapons of the army? Mu Gongzi's rhetorical question made Mu Gongzi's face turn extremely pale. He once bought weapons from an official in the Song dynasty a while ago, but what happened? The other party received the money but did not give the goods. Mu Gongzi mentioned his pain points. How do you think we should recruit troops and buy horses? Mu Gongzi asked, his tone already showing displeasure. He doesn't want to beat around the bush anymore. He wants to hear from Mu Gongzi how to solve the problem, rather than blaming him one by one for his difficulties. The most basic principle of reporting good news but not bad news is that this kid doesn't understand it. Simply put, the dove occupies the magpie's nest. Mu Gongzi said. Upon hearing these words, Mu Gongzi's eyes flashed with a glimmer of light. He seems to understand something. May I ask if you have ever seen Prince Mu? Mu Gongzi asked. He still had to pretend not to know the person in front of him. I have seen it before, of course. How does he look? Upon hearing this, Mu Gongzi confidently straightened his chest. He dared not say anything else, but he still had a bit of confidence in his appearance. Charming and charming, that's him. Nature is charming and handsome. Mu Gongzi's old face turned slightly red, and Mu Gongzi also felt a bit nauseous. The two of them looked at him together, wanting to take a deep breath to relieve the discomfort in their hearts. Since young Master Mu Gongzi has a charming appearance, he must be deeply loved by women. In addition, with the literary talent and military strategy of young Master Mu Gongzi, it's really easy to capture a woman's heart. Mu Gongzi said this, and Mu Gongzi's eyes became increasingly bright. He immediately said, "You want me. You want Mu Gongzi young master to pursue princesses from various countries. It may not necessarily be princesses from various countries, and the daughters of some high-ranking officials are also worth it. As long as there is an opportunity to enter the army, I believe that with the strength of young Master Mu Gongzi, it will be easy to make contributions. At that time, it would be easy to control the army with steady progress and success. After taking control of the army, what young Master Mu Gongzi wants to do is up to him." As Mu Gongzi's words fell, Mu Gongzi on the side only wanted to slap him twice. What was he doing before? Why does he want to wander in the rivers and lakes when his intention is to restore his country? Can great things be achieved by relying on those grasslands in the martial arts world? Mu Gongzi shook his head gently, pondered and finally determined that it was all thanks to his father. His father gave him a bad start, even though it was to restore the country, he ended up joining the martial arts world. Mu Gongzi stood up and looked at Mu Gongzi in front of him. This guy shook his head, nodded, and then sighed with a pinch of his wrist. Those who didn't know thought he was crazy. "Sir, may I have left now?" Mu Gongzi asked. Mu Gongzi regained his senses and arched his hand. "Your Excellency is so knowledgeable and talented. I admire you. If you want to leave, it's up to you. I also have something to do, so I'll take a step first." After Mu Gongzi finished speaking, he stood up directly, used his lightness skills, and ran towards the direction of the departure of the Western Xia army. He stayed in the Western Xia first-class hall for a long time, and he was familiar with the situation in junior high school. The current emperor of Western Xia had no children, only one daughter. Named Li Qinglu, she was conferred the title of Princess of Yinchuan. If he could catch Li Qinglu, use the power of Western Xia to revive the great Yan. Even, he has a Li Daitao stiff. Mu Gongzi became more and more excited as he thought, and his speed became faster and faster. He is an action-oriented person who does whatever he says and never hesitates. Mu Gongzi looked at Mu Gongzi who had left and relaxed his shoulders. Good guy. Finally fooled him away. Mu Gongzi breathed a sigh of relief and turned towards the mill. The sky has just cleared, and there is a refreshing smell of rainwater washing away the soil in the sky. "Master Mu." Two voices came through. Mu Gongzi looked towards the source of the sound and saw Duan Yu leading his horse over, with a smile on his face. "Master Mu, Miss Wang and I have been looking for you for a long time. You can do whatever you want," Duan Yu said, and Wang Yuyan on the horse also nodded lightly. Just as Mu Gongzi was about to raise his hand and say hello to the two, the next second Mu Gongzi covered his shoulder and gritted his teeth. "I didn't feel it earlier, but now I feel a pain in my shoulder. The person just now used a big grappling hand to grip your shoulder. Don't move around, Master Mu, just rest for 3 days. Wang Yuyan said. Upon hearing this, Duan Yu looked at the horse where Wang Yuyan was sitting and apologized to Mu Zhe. Unfortunately, there is only one horse. Otherwise, Brother Mu could have ridden on one. The identity of Mu Zedi has been upgraded again, and with Duan Yu, he has become the elder brother of Mu. I'll come down and take a walk for a while. If it weren't for the shepherd's words, I'm afraid that person would be going on a killing spree. Wang Yuyan said. As she was about to turn over and dismount, Mu Zhe looked at Wang Yuyan and said she wanted to give up her seat. Mu Zhe agreed with 100 people. Just now I raised my hand, that shoulder really hurts. Walking around, it also hurts faintly. Miss Wang, you just smelled the antidote of the pitiful and crisp breeze, and you are still powerless to walk. How can you come down? Duan Yu quickly said, afraid that Wang Yuyan might get off her horse and walk and hurt her body. He proved to Mu Zhe through practical actions what a licking dog really looks like. Wang Yuyan felt it, and it was indeed as Duan Yu said. Although she has regained some strength, walking is still a problem. The grace of saving lives that can be chosen by animal husbandry cannot be ignored. How can I watch Mu Zhe walk with injuries? After much thought, Wang Yuyan couldn't help but blush. This horse should be easy to ride with 2 people. If the young master doesn't mind, Yuyan is willing to ride with him. Ah! Before Mu Zhe could speak, Duan Yu beside him exclaimed in surprise. He only has one thought in his heart at this moment. How good it would be if he had just been hurt. If I could ride a ride with Miss Wang, not to mention having a shoulder injury, he would be willing to have one arm. My shoulder is really painful. Since Miss Wang invited me, I will be disrespectful. Mu Zhe arched his hand and bent down, his attitude extremely respectful. Mu Zhe walked forward. This saddle is a bit high, and now Mu Zhe is injured and can't use his strength for a while. Standing in front of the horse, he can't get up. Upon seeing this, Wang Yuyan immediately said, Mr. Duan, could you please push Mr. Mu? He can't use his strength anymore. Duan Yu's heart tasted good, but his immortal sister had already spoken up. Can he still not go? Duan Yu walked forward, supported Mu Zhe's buttocks, and pushed him up. Thank you, young Master Duan. Mu Zhe sat still, feeling the warmth in his arms. He sat upright and held on to the reins in front of him with both hands, but did not touch Wang Yuyan at all. Mu Zhe's style naturally fell into Wang Yuyan's eyes. Wang Yuyan's rosy face gradually faded away, and this shepherd is actually a righteous gentleman. Mr. Duan, thank you for bothering me. Let's go. Wang Yuyan said. Duan Yu nodded for a moment. Before leaving, he glanced at Mu Zhe and Wang Yuyan on his horse again, sighed, and pulled the horse towards the front. The sun is setting in the west. One person leading a horse, feeling unhappy. 2 people ride together on a horse, chatting and laughing. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Clever Strategies. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 Clever Strategies. Master Mu, your long stick has hit me. Immediately, Wang Yuyan whispered softly. Upon hearing this, Mu Zhe set the long stick aside. Miss Wang, continue talking. Upon hearing this, Wang Yuyan continued, there are not many famous swordsmen in the martial arts world today. Just now, Mu Zhe asked Wang Yuyan some questions about martial arts. The 2 of them talked about the difference between swords and knives. Mu Zhe had a shoulder injury and felt pain when lifting the knife. He had to use his unaffected left hand to hold a wooden stick and ask Wang Yuyan to use it as a sword and then explain. Duan Yu walked ahead, listening to the conversation between Mu Zhe and Wang Yuyan on horseback, feeling a surge of food in his heart. She immediately turned around and said, Miss Wang, why don't you give me some guidance? The two sisters, Azu and Abi, are still nowhere to be found. My martial arts are sometimes not effective, and if I encounter them, my martial arts will not be effective. It would be awkward to take them. Wang Yuyan suddenly remembered that when Duan Yu was dragging her to escape, Zhu and Bai were still in the apricot forest. Yes. Wang Yuyan nodded heavily and looked at Mu Zhe beside her. Master Mu, if we pass by a village or town in a while, we'll have to let you down, she said after Wang Yuyan finished speaking. She looked at Duan Yu again and said, Duan Gongzi, I have heard that the 6th meridian divine sword of the Duan family in Dali needs to cultivate one young finger to an extremely high level in order to cultivate the 6th meridian divine sword. Duan Yu nodded. That's it. If I guess correctly, Mr. Duan probably hasn't practiced the one young finger before, but he knows the cultivation method of one young finger. Mr. Duan's ability to use the 6th meridian divine sword is all driven by his profound internal power and the unconscious cultivation method of one young finger in his mind, which is why he is not spiritual at all. Miss Wang, you are truly divine. Duan Yu smiled happily and looked at Wang Yuyan, quickly saying, my dad has been asking me to recite the one young finger mnemonic since I was young. I have indeed memorized it, but I don't like practicing martial arts. I only know the mnemonic for this one young finger, but I don't know how to use it. Now that I heard Miss Wang say this, I finally understood. Duan Yu's flattery followed one after another. Duan Gongzi, your Lingbo micro-steps are unparalleled in wonders. If you use the 6th meridian divine sword as a supplement, you can go and obtain the world's great power. However, you need to first practice the one young finger. If you are extremely skilled in using the one young finger, then the 6th meridian divine sword will naturally be formed. Listening to Wang Yuyan's explanation, Duan Yu nodded repeatedly. Mu Zhe looked at Duan Yu with a joyful expression on his face, and the envy in his eyes almost overflowed. It's really like comparing people to death, and comparing goods to goods is like throwing them away. I want to practice martial arts, but I can't learn it no matter how hard I try. Duan Yu wanted to practice martial arts, but the Heavenly Lord slipped the martial arts secret book into his mouth and said, eat more. Just 2 words, envy. Miss Wang, why don't I practice now and give me some guidance so that I can use my young finger? We have a chance of winning by rescuing Sister Zhu and Sister Abi. How about that? Duan Yu continued to ask, as he wanted Wang Yuyan to personally guide him. Of course, it would be best if no Makoto was present. Just as Wang Yuyan was about to agree, she heard the two of them walking towards her. Looking forward, she saw that they were not Zhu and Abi, but who were they? Ah! Zhu, Bai. Wang Yuyan shouted with a smile. Miss Wang. Azu Abi was also surprised, obviously not expecting to meet Wang Yuyan here. As for Duan Yu, the disappointed expression in his eyes flashed by, replaced by the joy of Azu Abi getting out of trouble. Is it you? Azu and Abi dismounted and approached, only to see a man behind Wang Yuyan. They couldn't help but ask. Jokes, Murong Fu is their boss, and Wang Yuyan can be their future boss. Their own boss is so close to other men, can they not ask? 2 sisters, this is Mu Gongzi. Before Wang Yuyan could speak, Duan Yu beside him spoke about the matter of Mu Zhe. As soon as Mu Zhe spoke, a Western Xia expert was lured away, and Zhu and Bai's gaze towards Mu Zhe softened a lot. Upon hearing that Mu Zhe had been injured on the shoulder due to Duan Yu and Wang Yuyan, she felt a bit sad for a moment. That's enough to understand. Wang Yuyan was hit by a sad and crisp breeze, and coupled with her lack of understanding of martial arts, her recovery naturally slowed down. When she can walk normally, it may take half a day. As for Mu Zhe, his shoulder was injured and he felt pain as soon as he walked. These 2 people ride horses, which can be considered reasonable. After Duan Yu finished speaking, it was natural for Wang Yuyan to summarize. I saw Wang Yuyan coquettishly say, thanks to Mr. Duan and Mr. Mu, otherwise my life would be in danger." Upon hearing these words, Duan Yu couldn't help but straighten his chest and grin at the corner of his mouth. He noticed. Just now, Miss Wang said, "Thank you very much, Mr. Duan and Mr. Mu." She mentioned herself first. Thinking of this, Duan Yu felt even more delighted. The unpleasant moment of Mu Zhe holding Wang Yuyan and riding together before disappeared. 2 words, satisfied. "Azu Abi, how did you two get out of trouble?" Wang Yuyan asked again. Upon hearing this, Zhu instantly regained his energy and quickly told Mu Zhe and others about how Qiao Feng exerted great power to save him. That is to say, Wang Yuyan has not been deeply involved in the world, and she cannot tell that Zhu has a light in her eyes. When mentioning Qiao Feng, there was even a smile on the corner of his mouth, with a look of admiration. "So it was great Xia Qiao who saved you all." Wang Yuyan nodded. Azu behind him looked at Mu Zhe and Duan Yu behind Wang Yuyan, and a glimmer of light flashed in his eyes. He immediately said, "Miss Biao, don't the people in the beggars' sect suspect that the young master killed their deputy leader Ma Dayuan? You said, if the young master rescued those disciples of the beggars' sect, what would they think?" Zhu's words also made Wang Yuyan react, with a smile on her face, and she turned to look at Duan Yu. "Yeah, how could I not have thought of it?" The next second, the smile on Wang Yuyan's face disappeared, looking extremely conflicted. "However, is it too dangerous to let young Master Duan go?" Duan Yu was a bit puzzled. Although he was saying that Murong Fu was going to save the disciples of the beggars' sect, why did he get involved with him? Miss Azu's intention is to disguise herself as the young Master Murong and rescue the members of the beggars' sect. Mu Zhe explained, and Zhu clapped his hands and said with a smile, "Not bad. It's a bit too dangerous to just let Mr. Duan go." Wang Yuyan was a bit conflicted and immediately said. Upon hearing this, Duan Yu quickly waved his hand and said, "It's not dangerous. As long as Miss Wang is happy, I'm not afraid of danger." Wang Yuyan naturally felt a bit embarrassed to hear such a straightforward sentence. The atmosphere was a bit awkward for a moment, and Azu took the initiative to stand up and said, "There may not be any danger. North Qiaofeng and South Murong appeared together, and I don't believe that those from the Western Xia First-Class Hall would take the initiative." Azu confidently said. "When I am about to say my plan." She disguised herself as Qiao Feng, and Duan Yu disguised herself as Murong Fu. When the time came, Duan Yu showed off his ability to reciprocate with one hand and a gentle step. I believe people from the Western Xia First-Class Hall will not act recklessly. The shadow of the famous tree of a person can still be carried clearly by the North Qiaofeng and South Murong Qi. After Azu finished explaining, Duan Yu clapped his hands heavily and said, "Clever plan." Coincidentally, those members of the beggars' sect misunderstood my elder brother. If my elder brother comes forward to save them, I believe their misunderstanding can also be alleviated a lot. Zhu's eyes are full of joy. Duan Yu's idea is the same as hers. She also had the idea of helping Qiao Feng. It is truly regrettable that such a heroic figure has left in such a desolate state. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Seeking Education in Martial Arts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Seeking Education in Martial Arts. The group went straight to the town ahead. In the town, Azu bought some cosmetic items. Duan Yu also spent some money. He bought another horse. Wang Yuyan and Mu Zhe were sitting on a horse, and he felt really uncomfortable. He doesn't even have this kind of treatment. So when they went, 3 people walked, 2 people and 1 horse. When leaving the town, there were indeed 3 people walking, 2 people and 2 horses. After buying horses and things to change their appearance, everyone naturally didn't have any money to stay at the inn anymore. Of course, Mu Zhe still has some money in his hands, but the other party has already decided to rent a boat for temporary safety. What else can he say? 5 people arrived on the ship. Azu and Duan Yu entered the cabin. After a while, a man dressed in brocade and holding a folding fan walked out of the cabin. Cousin. Wang Yuyan covered her mouth with her hand, her eyes filled with shock and a faint hint of love. He knew that the art of Azu's disguise was unparalleled in the world, but when he really saw Mu reappear in front of him, there was no hint of surprise in her heart. Wang Yuyan had fulfilled Mu's wish to see her again, but Duan Yu felt a bit overwhelmed. When she first came out, Wang Yuyan's loving gaze made Duan Yu's heart skip a beat, as if drifting away like a fairy. But the word, cousin, in Wang Yuyan's mouth made Duan Yu feel like a bucket of cold water poured directly from his head. Pulling out the cold, Duan Yu forced a smile, but it was the Xiao Feng, who came out later, that caught everyone's attention. This is the first time Mu Zhe has seen Xiao Feng's appearance. I saw that he had a very muscular figure, in his 30s, wearing a grey old cloth robe that was slightly tattered. With thick eyebrows and big eyes, a high nose and wide mouth, and a square national character face, it exudes a touch of wind and frost. When looking at it, it exudes great power. Ah Zhu. Wang Yuyan tentatively said. It's me, Miss Biao. Mu Zhe had a strange expression and then turned his head to the side. It's really eye-catching. A big man suddenly let out a woman's voice from his mouth, your height. Duan Yu pointed at Ah Zhu, so surprised that he couldn't speak. Ah Zhu's height is vastly different from Xiao Feng's height. How could Yi Rong still carry Yi Rong's height? As someone who hasn't practiced martial arts before, I know the term bone-shrinking skill. Duan Gongzi, your experience in the martial arts world is really lacking. Mu Zhe smiled and said. Everyone laughed and chatted again, and Wang Yuyan reminded Duan Yu of some things about Mu Fu, so as not to reveal his faults when he said the wrong thing. The last three people saw off two people, leaving only Mu Zhe, Wang Yuyan, and Abi next to the ship. Master Mu, do you have anything else to do? Abi watched Azu leave and thought of Azu's instructions before leaving. She looked at Mu Zhe and then asked. Mu Zhe was taken aback for a moment, and immediately realized that this little girl was ordering her to leave. Mu Zhe's reaction was extremely fast, with no apparent reaction on her face. She just looked at Wang Yuyan and smiled. There's really nothing going on. I just don't know if what Miss Wang said earlier counts. Wang Yuyan was stunned for a moment, pondered for a moment, and remembered the scene of her and Mu Zhe riding together this morning. What's good about martial arts? Everyone loves it. Wang Yuyan sat in front of Mu Zhe, burying grievances more than once. At that time, Mu Zhe said, in the martial arts world, it is better to have martial arts skills by your side than to hand over your life to others when facing danger. Wang Yuyan said, if Master Mu really wants to learn, Yuyan can teach him a lesson, and I am grateful that Master Mu saved my life. Thoughts were like water, rolling back and forth in Wang Yuyan's mind, and a replay came. Do you really want to learn martial arts, Master Mu? Wang Yuyan looked at Mu Zhe and then asked. I have made up my mind, and I hope Miss Wang will not hesitate to teach me. Mu Zhe said. What are the missing martial arts secrets in the Longhuan Jade Cave? The 18 dragons subduing palms of the beggar's sect, the Yi Jin Jing of Shaolin, the One Yang finger of Dali, and the 6 meridian divine sword. Except for these 4 divine arts, most of the other martial arts are included in the Longhuan Jade Cave. Apart from the Yi Jin Jing that Zhu will steal in the future, Wang Yuyan is already the quickest way for Mu Zhe to access top-notch martial arts. Master Mu has shown me the kindness of saving my life. Since Master Mu is willing to learn, then Yu Yan will definitely not hide anything private. Wang Yuyan said. Abi sighed as she saw the situation, and naturally knew that Mu Zhe couldn't leave in the short term. 3 people entered the cabin, and Abi began to cook tea. Wang Yuyan sat opposite Mu Zhe and began to inquire about his requirements for martial arts. Mu Zhe has already had a plan. Firstly, as towering buildings rise from the ground without a solid foundation in internal skills, Mu Gongzi's desire to learn other advanced martial arts in the future is a pipe dream. So first, you need to choose an internal skill. Next is the move, which involves selecting a sword technique and a palm technique. After all, he had already decided to practice swordsmanship, and as for the palm technique, Mu Gongzi was worried that he would face the situation of losing his weapon and leaving only his hands. After selecting the type, the next step is the faction. So far, the chances of being unowned have been the internal power of Wuxia and the Yi Jin Jing stolen by Azu in the future. For Mu Gongzi, choosing Shaolin's internal skills is the top choice. Even if one switches to the Yi Jin Jing or Shenzu Jing in the future, they will at least be Buddhist martial arts, so as not to cause conflicts. Moreover, Mu Gongzi heard that the Yi Jin Jing is not so easy to practice. Mu Gongzi can first cultivate Buddhist martial arts. After Azu steals the Yi Jin Jing and deceives him, he can then try to practice it. If not, rely on your own small martial arts skills to find Duan Yanqing. Threaten him with Duan Yu's message and ask him to help him break the Tianlong chess game. At that time, I had some martial arts skills and was able to handle it to some extent. Mu Gongzi nodded and just did it. To be honest with Miss Wang, I want to learn a Buddhist internal skill, as well as a sword technique and a palm technique. Mu Gongzi said. Wang Yuyan didn't respond, but Abi beside her opened her mouth wide and couldn't speak for a while. After a long time, she began to roast, Pastor, a kindness, 3 martial arts. This is my first time to see you. Abi has a gentle temperament, which can make her roast, which is enough to show how excessive Sichuan's requirements are. No problem, since learning martial arts, one naturally needs to have internal skills and moves. The requirements of the shepherd's son are not excessive. Wang Yuyan shook her head, then she pondered, only thinking about the Buddhist internal skills and sword techniques she had mastered. After combing through his brain, it naturally depends on how talented Mu Gongzi is. Only by knowing Mu Gongzi's talent can we decide which martial arts to teach him. Master Mu, do you know the acupoints and meridians? Upon hearing these words, Mu Gongzi nodded repeatedly, which was the benefit of hard work. He had already understood the contents of medical skills. Wang Yuyan breathed a sigh of relief, which made her feel much more relaxed. Mr. Mu, let's talk about internal skills first. I have 37 internal skills of Buddhism, including Shaolin sect, Pratt Whitney sect, Zen, Buddha temple and other Buddhist martial arts. Among them, there are Arhat skills, Pudu Ju, Buddha tablet scriptures, Zen Buddhism, child skills. Mu Gongzi listened to Wang Yuyan's introduction and waited for her to finish before saying, I dare to ask Miss Wang, which gate is better for me to cultivate? Wang Yuyan listened and suggested, Master Mu, it's best to choose more. Practice the beginner's qi-inducing method in each door, and see how fast you practice. This can also confirm Master Mu's talent. Then, choose the sword and palm techniques so that I can prescribe the right medicine for the situation. Since that's the case, Miss Wang can help me choose the most difficult one, the medium difficulty one, and the simple one. Wang Yuyan nodded lightly, since that's the case, then I will select the most difficult one for Mu Gongzi, the strongest one in medium difficulty, and the strongest one in simple difficulty. Mu Gongzi, wait a moment, I will write down the qi boosting chapters of these 3 internal skills. End of this chapter.